So the tests itself are in the PHP source repository. So you have you can just go to GitHub and then into the extension folder, and there is, for example, the setlib that we had in the talk, and there is a test folder, and here you have the test cases. So you have a lot of like the initial test. Here we have 15 years ago. Oh, this is a zip file itself. What do we have? 12 years ago. New test. So 12 years ago, someone wrote this test. Fire nothing done, expect done. Okay. Interesting. I don't know. And here we have all the tests. There should actually be the test cases that I built. Let's see if I can find them. Setlib git coding type. gzip. Here's the test case. It's probably a bit different. Oh no, it's still the expressive version. Maybe someone could speed this up. But in the end, this is actually the test case that I wrote. Also wrote a test case for deflate, which is pretty much the same thing. The problem here is that as we had in the talk, I'm not able from the user space to influence this accepting coding variable. So PHP is not reacting on any of this. So I had to create one test case for all of these. So there is one for gzip, one for deflate. Then there's one for BR, which is broadly. I think Chrome uses that, but PHP cannot do broadly output compression at this point in time. So this is just an invalid string for PHP. So it should expect false both times. And then there should be also like basic. Okay, so for no environment variable set, so it's just not here. There's no accepting coding set. Then it should also return false. So you can go through these tests. There's a lot of them. Just for the setlib extension, like every other extension has its test. Yeah.
Florian, I've got a question about the test. I noticed you've got a .inc file, like .inc, inside the tests folder. Is that for common code that might be shared among tests? So if you search for .inc, I think it's functions.inc, but yeah, it's got a couple of them. It's just to make the test more readable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can basically in the file section you can do anything that you can do in PHP. You can include files, you can do stuff. Yeah. To be or not to be, that's the question. Or it might be that this is the plain text to this. We have a few questions in chat. How do you cover send parse parameters? You mean that one? Let me get this. This one here, right? The send parse parameters non equals failure. You don't need to write tests for these cases. The send parse parameters, all the PHP functions, and like in the C code, if you go through the C code, you find these things: static PHP function, and then the function itself. That means that the setlib git coding type is a userland function that you can call from PHP, and it has parameters or it does not have parameters. So actually, what we do here is we check that there is no parameter given. So when you call setlib git coding type and pass it a boolean, a string, whatever, just some argument, but the setlib git coding type does not accept any arguments, then it will just it will return. No, it will not return in this case. The send parse parameters non-function will then explode. But actually, that's how you would get this covered. But in the qa.php.net page, there somewhere I found this. Don't know where I found it, but about the page about writing the PHP test, there is stated that we do not need to write tests for the send parse parameters none, or there are other functions. If there are multiple parameters, if you have a parameter or more parameters, and there are other functions to check the parameters that you have given in the call to this setlib git coding type. And there is a lot of tests for this already, so we don't need to explicitly test this everywhere.
Thank you.
Oh, it was you. Okay.
So if you found a bug in PHP, how would you go about fixing it? Can you offer a fix, or?
You mean if you can create a pull request with the bug fix for some bug you found?
Yeah, so would that be written in C?
Yeah, in most cases.
Have you seen the C code base?
This is actual C code what we have here. I can show you in this file. The problem a bit with the C code, it's there is a lot of macros everywhere. Let's go to the setlib get coding type. Here we have it. Oh, look, it's changed. In PHP 8, it's now return throws. So all of these are macros. This PHP function is a macro that does a lot of stuff around. This return throws is a macro that does a lot of stuff. This setlib basically it's accessing this compression coding variable, but it's a macro that does a lot of stuff around. If you this is the C code, but if you want to from the C code return something to the user space, you can just here return something, but it has to be a set val. So you do return string L, then give it the string, the size, and all this stuff. This is a macro, and when you search for that macro, you find it's consisting of other macros, so it's macros all the way down.
Okay, interesting.
I can show you this. There is one place. Yeah, here we have it. This is one of the initialization functions, this PHP setlib output coding, and this is the only case. These two lines, 161 and 163, are the two lines where the write access to this compression coding variables that we test in the 17 coding type. And hidden in this call, you can see it here that it's accessing the $_server variable, searching for the HTTP accept encoding key, and reading the value to the ENC variable. And hidden in this thing is the access to the original. So it's macros over macros. It's a PG macro. I have no idea what actually this does. Returns something and gives it to another macro, and so it's macros all the way down.
That code coverage report, so where it shows you the bits that are red, where do we find that?
I can find this in the Azure Pipelines. I have the link in the slides, and I have the link also in the blog post. And it should be also in GitHub. Oh yeah, it should be here. Yeah, that's it. Then you're in the Azure Pipelines, and this is a bit tricky because you have to look for the latest scheduled build. There is for some CI process, some pull requests, but you have to look for something that starts with scheduled for. Here we have it scheduled for master, for example, scheduled for PHP 8 branch, and then you can go into this build. Let's go into that one, and here you have the code coverage report. And then we see that it's 70.6% lines are covered. So there's still lines uncovered, and only 55% of the branches are covered. And then you have it here for every single file. And let's go to the setlib. So here you have the X setlib, and here's the setlib C. And you see it's, okay, pretty well covered. Where do you find things like this? So there's a lot of stuff not covered. These are all macros doing stuff. Here we have it. Whatever happens here. Oh, let's get to the setlib file, setlib C. Yeah, here we have it. There's a bunch more of tests since PHP 8. Then here you have, for example, the OB gzip handler. So if you want to write a test for the gzip handler, for the output buffer gzip handler, there's a lot of stuff to be tested. Feel free. No pressure.
I have a comment. I don't want to be their angry guy or whatever it's called, but I'm actually surprised that coverage isn't higher in PHP because it's a language that's been there for ages, and the code you just saw before, there are code that hasn't changed for ages as well. So that the coverage isn't higher is actually quite surprising to me, with the stability in mind of PHP.
The usual thing. Yeah, probably one of the things is like this setlib coding type, all this setlib stuff is here since ages. And when people started to write this, I actually don't know when people start to write tests. And this test runner, like I said, the test runner was as of PHP 7.4, the test runner is able to execute tests in parallel. Before that, it was just a small script that executed those tests, and it took ages for them to complete. So looks like there has not been too much involvement here in writing tests. That's why I'm giving these talks. And this was also the initial thought of the PHP Test Fest, to bring people to write tests to PHP. But sadly, it's not that. I don't know.
Yeah. As you know, I reacted on your blog post some months ago as you posted it as well, but I actually never got it to run locally. So yeah, I wanted to, but I never got it running. So it could be that there are still some hurdles, yeah, I don't know if a FAQ section would be needed or whatever, but perhaps I just didn't find it yet where to go to search for the additional info to get it running and started locally.
Yeah, there's not so much information out there. As I stated, you have qa.php.net where you find the documentation on the PHP files, but you do not find information on how to prepare your setup and how to prepare your local machine to actually execute the tests. Then you have on PHP Test Fest. Let's just check if this is still up. It is. PHP Test Fest, you have some. Where do we have it? We have some tutorials. Finding tests to write. Finding tests. There is a Docker PHP QA. I'm not 100% sure if this is actually working. Yeah, that's one of the problems. This page is pretty outdated.
The Docker bit does work because I've got some Docker images that I use for sort of parallel tests in Jenkins, and I built PHP back to version 4 up to about 7.4, and they're on Docker Hub and it's on GitHub. So how to build PHP? I don't run tests on all of them, but I've used the Docker QA to try to add a little bit of extra, and it doesn't work. It's just that it works for like the latest. I can't remember if it's like a third party that maintains it, but it does run the tests.
I too have no idea. Oh, it's on Herd PHP. There is a small group of people on Twitter trying to restart this PHP Test Fest. I'm pushing a bit, but my time is also limited. So let's see if there will be a 2021 edition.
All right. Any other questions?
I had one about the way the test runner works, although so it's capable of running multiple tests in parallel. Does it literally take the sections in between the dashes, make them separate files, and use like Unix style chaining so that like the test does a skip, like it runs that and then ampersand the actual test to run?
That's a good question. There's this run test PHP, but what we have in the output, if the test fails, then the test runner will leave everything that it does. So we have this one.phpt, which was the test file, the first failed test that we had.
Can you cat the sh file?
Sorry?
Can you cat the .sh file? There's one.sh.
Yeah.
I think that might answer my question.
Oh, it's 5 kilobytes. Yeah. So if you run with GDB, you can run with Valgrind.
Wow.
This is the test case that's then actually executed. And here's this one.php, and the one.php is actually just what we have. what we have in our file section. So this is just the file section. And you have this one.out. This should be this is just the output from whatever we have here. And then you have the expected is the expected output, and then we have a diff, which is sometimes might be readable. In the case that I presented to you, the one.log is easier to read and understand what's going on. And if the test succeeds, like our for the PHP, then the test runner will clean up after itself. If the test is not succeeding, then it will leave all these files laying around. This is in the root folder of the PHP source. If you run make test, then it executes this run test.php, and you can go through this. It's a lot of stuff. What do we have here? Let's go to the end. Just 3,800 lines. Not too big. So this is the actual test runner. Even the runner itself is written in PHP.
Does Peckle use this? The PECL?
Mm-hmm. You mean for running tests?
Yeah, does it use the same framework?
That's a good question. Where do we have this?
Like what I was thinking is while we were looking at the Azure test, I was thinking, does it actually stand up on MySQL to run the MySQL internal functions, or does it just put them in Peckle and say core doesn't need to worry about that, and then the PECL people have to set up their own test environment to make sure that their extensions also work? Because like Derek was named in there, Derek Reffens, and he's given a toolkit, and PHP debug, Xdebug comes out slightly delayed from the latest PHP version generally. So I was wondering if there was like a friction there between the extension authors and.
No, usually not. It should be. It has the same run test PHP. Actually, I don't have this observer. This observer extension. There is a new observer extension in PHP 8. So when you want to build a tracer, for example, on userland function, there is an observer API that you can use, and there is a small proof of concept from Sandy Powers, and I did some changes on this one. And there is also, you can install that via Peckle. But on the other hand, I actually don't know where this run test PHP comes from that we have here, but it's probably no, not exactly the same one. The other file was 3,800 lines. So I don't know where this comes from. But there is a test runner for this. But actually, that's a good point that you had. The test for the MySQL extension. Oh, looks like there are no tests
somehow.
Oh, there are tests for this. Save ID install.
Petras.
Shows that. Oh, the skip if block is a bit. Okay. Skip if inc, skip if connection failure. So it looks like there has to be a database somewhere around. Okay, this is just a check for the MySQL extension. Then connect failure. Yeah, so actually it looks like it's trying to connect. Yes, look, it's connecting to a database. So if you run around the tests for the MySQL extension, you need a database server up and running. Okay, good to know.
It makes a lot of sense. You can't patch C functions quite as easily.
Yeah.
You can actually patch them. I don't know if you've ever patched an SO file to run a game. Like if you run games on Linux, you sometimes have to tell them, I think it's LD loader. So if, and it's a big if MySQL had shared objects for the connection. Like if the PHP side of it did that, you could actually use LD loader to switch out the connection and have some. It would be disgusting. I think everyone would be upset, but I would be happy, and I would give a talk to Michael and everyone who would then never do it.
Yeah, I think in this case it's probably easier to just spin up a mouse cursor.